It's the real news. I'm Aaron Mete. We're talking about Silicon Valley's increasing policing of content across its platforms. And one of the latest casualties has been the website Venezuela Analysis. Its Facebook page was taken down for several hours before being restored without explanation. So here to discuss our two guests, we're still joined by journalist and author Max Blumenthal. Now we're also joined by my Real News colleague, Greg Wilpert. He is a senior producer and host at the Real News, and also the founder of VenezuelaAnalysis.com. Greg, tell us what you know.
Yes, early this morning, I think around 9 or 8 a.m., we found out that the Facebook page for VenezuelaAnalysis.com had been removed or basically blocked by Facebook, and no explanation was provided other than it saying that somehow our page had violated the Facebook terms, and there was a link to those terms. We, of course, immediately reviewed those terms. I don't know how many people actually do that. They're not that long. I recommend everybody do review them in case they might be being taken down. But in our review of all the terms, there was absolutely no reason, no discernible reason why our page violated those terms. And of course, and the only thing that, only recourse we had was an anonymous appeal button. That is, you could click that button and then say why you're appealing and hope for a response, which we never got. And only this evening, probably around 5 p.m. Eastern time, was the page reinstated, again, with no explanation whatsoever anywhere, as far as we could tell. So this was, of course, one of the most frustrating things, is that you just don't know it. I mean, you feel like this is just a completely arbitrary decision. And I should note, of course, that one of the things, and one of the speculations, of course, that we have is that maybe they think that Venezuela Analysis is somehow a government-funded website or somehow not misrepresenting what it's about, but we don't. I mean, VenezuelaAnalysis.com is a completely reader-funded website reporting from a progressive point of view and from a point of view of the social movements in Venezuela about what's going on in Venezuela. So there's really no legitimate reason, as far as we could tell, for having blocked the site.
How many followers does Venezuela Analysis have on Facebook? And have you ever gotten any complaints about its content before?
Of course, we get crank complaints all the time, but nothing official, at least not from Facebook. And we have about 8,400 followers, which is not an enormous number, but it's a respectable number, considering that it's a relatively minor site. We don't do any advertising and been around for a good 15 years now.
Max Blumenthal, I can't help but note that this comes just days after Nicolas Maduro faced an assassination attempt. So a time when sites like Venezuela Analysis are going to be very busy and people are going to be turning to it. I'm wondering your thoughts upon hearing that its Facebook page was taken down for many hours.
Well, I've actually been noticing some interesting developments on Facebook with my own page, which is dedicated to promoting articles that appear on mygrayzoneproject.com, which is that, frequently I'll post an article, Facebook will tell me it's high performing, and they'll say, would you like to boost the post for $20? And, on a number of occasions I've tried, and I followed every instruction that Facebook provided me. Ultimately, I had to submit a form and receive mail. I have the piece of mail which gave me a code so that I could confirm that I wasn't a Russian bot or I don't know what, to confirm that I was a real person. And I entered the code. I followed every verification instruction, and I'm still blocked from taking out ads or boosting any post on political grounds. Electronic Intifada has had the same problem, and they've appealed again and again, and Facebook simply blocks them. Meanwhile, there are sponsored posts for all sorts of websites which are on the other side of the political spectrum that I see every day, and I just don't know what the criteria is here. Indeed, Venezuela Analysis was blocked right after Nicolas Maduro and his government presented evidence of the assassination attempt on Maduro that took place 4 days ago by drones containing C4. They linked the attempt to former Venezuelan military and police personnel in Colombia. We've seen revelations that there may have been some planning that took place in Miami. So Venezuela Analysis has produced some of the most critical reporting and analysis on what has taken place behind the scenes. Meanwhile, we've seen places like Think Progress, which is the sort of outsourced brain of the Democratic Party, a blog for the Center for American Progress think tank in Washington, describe the assassination attempt on Maduro without any evidence as a false flag, as a possible inside job. They weren't punished in any way. I've also been recently reporting on Nicaragua, which has faced a kind of a soft coup, color revolution style attempt against the government of Daniel Ortega and the Sandinista movement as a whole. And there was a really important new initiative, sort of similar to Venezuela Analysis, but it also contained kind of like a podcast element with in-studio analysis by young Nicaraguans who are supporters of the Sandinistas, breaking down the coup, talking about U.S. meddling. It's called Red Volucion. And their videos would just get taken down again and again and again without any explanation. It really does seem to me that there is a disproportionate attempt at suppressing left-wing media on Facebook. I'm not really in contact with anyone on the far right or the right to really measure it against what happens to them, but it really does seem like there's increasing pressure on these really legitimate journalistic and political analysis initiatives to suppress their message. And it's incredibly disturbing what happened today with Venezuela Analysis.
You know, just to read the headline of that Think Progress piece that Max mentioned, it's called, "Did a Drone Attack Really Try to Assassinate the Venezuelan President?" That's what Caracas is claiming, even though it may have just been a gas leak explosion. And the irony is that it's written by a prolific blogger who constantly talks about the scourge of Russian misinformation.
Yeah.
Greg Wilpert, Max, quick comment, and then we'll wrap with Greg.
I mean, I would just go to Greg, but the irony is clear. You know, as long as false flag speculation serves the Washington consensus, then, you know, it fits within the editorial guidelines of mainstream media.
Greg Wilpert, final word to you. Are you concerned that this might be the beginning of more of a crackdown on content that Venezuela Analysis is putting out?
I think there's certainly reason to be concerned. I mean, like I mentioned before, the very fact that it's been so arbitrary with no explanations provided is very concerning. And actually addressing what you and Max were mentioning, I mean, actually, one of our best performing articles was just published yesterday, which was specifically a critique of The Guardian's kind of suggestion that there was a false flag operation going on in Venezuela. And it was a detailed takedown of that article. And then shortly after, you know, it took off, the site was shut down. Now, I don't know if there's a connection, but it's certainly very suspicious. And one of the problems is that there's no supervision or oversight over a medium that basically has become, so to speak, the de facto news platform for almost everyone in the world. Now, for better or worse, and it's completely unsupervised and unregulated. The good thing, I would say, just very quickly, is that we got lots of positive reactions. And I think the reason why so many people react very quickly is that they know they could be next, because they know that these decisions are completely arbitrary. They know that these decisions could affect anyone at any time, and therefore we have to react. And so that was very positive to see. We even got article requests or interview requests from BuzzFeed, from Sputnik, from a whole bunch of different locations. And so that's the kind of the silver lining here.
We'll leave it there. Greg Wilpert of The Real News and Venezuela Analysis, and Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone Project. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on The Real News.